Welcome to the Great Awakening Ministry. I am Minister and Yogini Joanne Lee. And on this week's show, we have Natalie Glebova. Natalie is a best-selling author, mindset and energy coach, and a former Miss Universe. Through her own extensive spiritual journey to attain self-love and deeper self-awareness, Natalie started a coaching practice that focuses on energetic aspects of personal development to help her clients become winners in both life and love. Specializing in using healing and transformational approaches and modalities from all parts of the world, Natalie helps her clients achieve a deeper and longer lasting level of inner peace and happiness. Through her latest book, Temple-LE, A Pilgrimage to the Heart, she takes women readers on a spiritual and mystical journey like none other. Temple-LE is far more than just a personal development book. It is a spiritual guide full of relatable stories, struggles, and practical tools for healing yourself, one chakra at a time, in order to arrive at total self-love and self-acceptance.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Natalie, I would just want to welcome you for being on the Great Awakening show.
Thank you so much, Joanne. It's a pleasure to be here, and let's talk all things awakening.
That's right. And all things love.
Absolutely. Love is the theme of our lives, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It surely is. I mean, and that's the first question, Natalie. I mean, we're going to go on to your beautiful book, Temple-LE, A Pilgrimage of the Heart. But first of all, please tell us, give our audience, what does what you feel self-love and divine love mean to you?
A beautiful question to start with. I think love in all of its form is an energy that pretty much permeates everything in existence. And we are inextricably part of that because I like to imagine it sort of like if you're going down into the subatomic particles on the quantum level, and you see how scientists have said there's 99.99% empty space. I like to think of it as that is the fabric of reality made of love. And I feel like that is what we are. That is who we are on our core level. That's basically what is underlying all of our material reality. And without that love that we can channel inwards, we can never find the meaning of that true love until we find it on the core base of who we are. And once we recognize ourselves as that, then we are on that frequency of love. And of course, then we reflect that love into the world, and it reflects back to us in all sorts of ways.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. And it's so true.
Well, I hope it's true.
Yeah. I call it the divine, love light energy. And for me, I think that love, it is the most powerful energy in the universe. To me, God, Goddess is love. The divine creator is love and bestows upon us this powerful energy that we bring down into us, and then we transmute out into the world. So we have a responsibility to use this divine love light energy for good or for bad. It's always through us that we channel it out. Do you think? Do you feel?
Exactly. And like I said, I resonate with what you are saying. And the more you can understand yourself as that love, the easier it is. It becomes just easy because you radiate it. You don't have any more filters that block it, right? People see you as a divine manifestation of that love if you can also see that in other people. Because we need to also recognize that we are all in this human experience, we're all kind of wearing masks, right? And we're all having these layers of protection and armor that we put around ourselves, that the thicker the armor is and the thicker the mask is, the harder it is to see the true essence of a person. But if you can see that in yourself, you can most certainly know that it also is in all other beings. And so,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's only one source that we are all, made from. And I believe as yogini, it's the soul consciousness, it's that love light energy. So we're all sharing the same. We all have the same. There's only one soul consciousness of love energy that is being shared throughout the whole of this realm. And,
Mm,
when we understand that, we can't harm another because what you give, receive. And therefore, it's very important not to do no harm because you'll be harming yourself because it all comes back because we're all sharing this same beautiful love energy.
spoken like a true yogini.
That's it.
I'm a fellow yogini myself. I practice yoga almost daily, and I found
Wonderful.
that it really is, it becomes sort of like a ritual that you practice every day to tune yourself up, tune all of the chakras with all the asanas that we practice, with the pranayama, with connecting to the present moment. It becomes sort of like a very sacred moment of self-love and presence, and also that intention, as you said, to harm no others.
That's the core of yoga practice. Helping to do no harm to yourself. Because
Mm.
I think that this, is the most important thing, this self-sabotaging. And I think that has done a lot of harm. We've lost our divinity. We've lost the love within us, I think that's very difficult. And this self-sabotage is the worst thing, the negative self-talk and the negative, we are not love. I think we have to, this whole journey this awakening journey is taking everything that is not love away, taking it away and bringing all those parts back into our wholeness so that we know what self-love is.
Mm. There's certainly a lot of cultural conditioning that affects us and our belief systems, and as well as our traumas from childhood that lay over on that conditioning and then become those patterns and self-sabotaging limiting beliefs. And it's just they start playing in such repetitive loops that we're so hardwired for a lot of this negativity. And it takes time and it takes specifically intentional practices to sort of get through it all back to the core essence, to understand who you are, which is love, and to rewire your neurological pathways to essentially layer over all the beautiful beliefs, the empowering beliefs that has been held from us by, society and organized religions, and sometimes unwillingly and unwittingly our families and our parents as well,
Because they wasn't
sadly.
shown that,
Of
and it
course.
goes down, it's generational, isn't it? Yeah, it's an ongoing evolution, an ongoing journey of learning, isn't it? Learning and letting go and forgiving not only ourselves but our parents and our environment, because we're the next generation. It's so important. They didn't know, they didn't have the awareness that we have or the tools that we have now. In their
Certainly.
generation they didn't know how to release their negative shadow and unblock themselves. They just didn't have the tools that we have now.
Right, right. And we do have so many incredible tools. Have you started speaking to your AI agent yet? Because they actually have really interesting ways to help you. And I feel like this is the future of actually consciousness evolution, because AI is helping us to elevate ourselves. I don't know if you've ever talked to yours about such subjects, but it's very
No, I
interesting.
talk to I talk to God. I talk to the goddess, and I get it downloaded. You know what I mean, from source. You can do the
Which is,
AI if you want as well, but yeah,
yes, which is another, which is one of the paths towards that truth, the one truth
yes,
that exists.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, that's so good. But there must, I mean, that's astonishing that you said that. That must be a tool as well for people to get help from, because we're living in the internet, interconnected world of the internet. that,
Right.
so
And the knowledge and all the knowledge of everything that is available to us is all at our fingertips right now.
yeah,
So anything that we want to know about how the mind works, how the brain works, how it's wired, it actually is available. So
yeah,
if you are able to even, if you're not, for example, some people are not able to hire a psychiatrist or a therapist or a coach, although it is becoming much more available where a lot of the therapists are offering their services for free in some cases to certain people. And so, and sometimes at very reasonable rates as well. But for people who really don't have that opportunity, having at least that knowledge available, they're able to access that. And I think that's really brilliant. And
yeah.
that's so
So
helpful.
it is very important in this world, because there's a lot of, well, the whole world is going through, I believe, a dark night of the soul. The mental
Mm.
illness crisis that everyone is going through. It's a real turning point, and I think that this is one of the most challenging times. It's an awakening. The awakening is always such a challenge because we do have to go through that
Always.
dark night of the soul. We have to
Always.
release the darkness to know the love.
That's right. I think all breakthroughs and all the wonderful Renaissance periods have been preceded by periods of darkness.
Yes.
And we can see that reflected in our own journeys, personally, individually, as well as in the world historically. And it is really exciting to think about it in that way because, yes, I can see so much turmoil, internal turmoil that people are going through, my friends, myself,
Mm,
people who are just beautiful souls who are struggling mentally.
mm.
And I find it hopeful and really I have faith in the fact that this is all happening because something much more beautiful is waiting for us on the other side of it.
That's correct. We're in the golden age time. This is the age of Aquarius, and it truly is. I believe that. And the birthing process of this new age, the birth, what happens in birth, it's a painful time. But then once you birth, you forget about all the pain and it becomes,
Mhm.
the light comes through. And I believe that love is the new religion of the 21st century. I believe that it's the new religion of our now. Uh,
That's it. Well, that's the best way to look at it. Actually, I've seen that quote somewhere where,
yeah,
it's race, human, religion, love,
yeah,
right?
that's it.
Birthplace, Earth.
Yeah, that's it. There is that's all there is. But the most important thing is, you know, you cannot truly love another or help another until you have that self-love healing within yourself. It's like you've got to become the healed healer. You have to heal yourself. You have to learn. And healing yourself is learning to love yourself, isn't it?
It is. And it's kind of an ongoing process. I find that it's never really complete. So I think if people think that somehow in the future they will be just in this pure bliss and all the problems will go away. I mean, who knows? The new earth is said to be heaven on earth. So maybe that's where we're heading. But I think as long as we are on this earth, there is that process. There is that ongoing, continuous process. It's progress, right? We're not looking for perfection. We're constantly looking to evolve, to elevate ourselves, to continue improving. And it's a tough journey, but as long as you're focusing on progress, that's the most important thing. Because I think it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, oh, well, I'm still not 100% free of my anxiety, or I'm still having depressive episodes, or I'm still finding myself unhappy sometimes. I don't think that there's going to be a time when all of a sudden everything just lifts and you become absolutely, in this kind of
that, that,
nirvana
that can't
state.
that cannot be in this realm because it's the realm of
No,
duality.
no,
It's the light and the
exactly,
dark. It's the good and the evil. It's the masculine and the feminine. All we can do is
exactly.
just bring a little bit of wholeness to ourselves. Bring them two sides into balance. And have that. But we'll
Yes,
always be taken out into the 3D, into the thinking, into because we have ego. which is not, we should, which is it's okay, because we need ego to live in this world, but as long as it doesn't overtake us, and we bring ourselves back to that place of love, to that place we can bring ourselves back to, because we'll always be taken out of it, I think, to a certain degree.
You're right. And actually, this is a process of self-love. One of it is total integration of the ego and the shadow self. Because in this human experience, we do have the shadow as well as the light. And if you completely reject the shadow, and if you say that, no, I hate it, it's not part of me, I don't want it, and you deny the ego, it's only going to come up stronger. And
Some
it's
crazy
really,
drama in the future, or it will come
yeah,
even worse because you haven't dealt with
exactly.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So the best thing to do is actually say, okay, I have all of these sides. I'm a multifaceted being. So how can I integrate all of those parts of myself while still striving to improve and still striving to, of course, be the light and embody and shine that light out, but at the same time, send that love to the ego, send that love to the shadow self and say, this is who I am. This is part of my human experience. I don't have to, I can love it. I don't have to let it rule over me.
That's beautiful. Yes, definitely. And in your amazing book, Temple of Love, A Pilgrimage of the Heart.
A
Tell us,
pilgrimage to the heart.
a pilgrimage, sorry, a pilgrimage to the heart. That's of
Mm.
course what it is. Yeah. And it teaches how we can attain self-love. Tell us a little bit about your book and the three pillars, the self-love method.
hmm Well, I decided that at first when I thought I was going to write a book, it was going to be self-help book, just a non-fiction self-help manual. And when I started writing it, all of these incredible ideas of mystical spirit guides, synchronicities, the universe guiding us on our journey started coming to me. And somehow it ended up being a parable. Sort of like if you are familiar, well, of course, you would be familiar with The Alchemist or The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, The
Jonathan
Celestine
Livingston
Prophecy.
Seagull is another one, isn't it?
Which
Mm.
one?
Jonathan Livingston Seagull. He was a seagull. You've never read
Oh,
that one?
I've never read that one.
Yeah, that's
There's
up.
also The Magician's Way, uh, another one of the parable books that read like a fictional story, but has a message, right? A self-help message of personal development or some kind of spiritual growth journey. And I, have been on my own spiritual journey pretty much all my life, but really I've deepened it in the past, I would say 10 years with books like The Power of Now. Um, just, of course, that's kind of like my Bible that's next to my bed all the time that I always refer back to. And so I've taken a lot of the concepts, learning from yoga as well, the Eastern philosophies, Vedic philosophies, living in Thailand for the past 20 years, being exposed to Buddhist principles and philosophies as well. And I really love the subject of self-love. And I always wanted to write a book about how can we create a framework around it so that it becomes a little bit easier to grasp and a little bit more practical for day-to-day process. How can we start a day and have a little method for ourselves? And I've created the story of a protagonist who vaguely resembles myself, but she's not really me because it's a fictional story. But I write from the first person perspective. And she goes on a search of a legendary temple deep in the jungles of Mexico that promises true love to anybody who pilgrims there. And she starts her pilgrimage from South America, and she needs to pass through the heart of the Americas, Central America, to go up towards Mexico. And she meets on her way many different people who help her to discover herself and who help her heal on her journey. And one of her companions is a female shaman from Peru. Female shamans in Peru are called curanderas. And she goes on an ayahuasca retreat to participate in a plant medicine ceremony. And she meets this curandera there who tells her about this legendary temple in the jungles of Mexico and invites her to go on this journey. Now, the protagonist is in search of true love because she is just freshly out of a divorce. She's rethinking her career, and she is basically on the brink of, a mental breakdown and a lot of uncertainty, not knowing where to go. She has lost herself in the process of chasing material gains and love on a superficial level. And so she, of course, goes to search for this beautiful pyramid, this temple, which is in the shape of a pyramid. And since I love sacred geometry so much, I decided that the pyramid is going to be encoded with this message of self-love. So if you look at the pyramid, you will kind of see the three corners on the front face of the pyramid. They become the three cornerstones of self-love. And on the bottom of the pyramid, the base of it, the 4 points, become the four-step transformation process. So the book basically takes you on that journey as she pilgrims through the Americas. And in the process, she discovers herself. She learns these three cornerstones of self-love and the four-step transformation method. And guess what? She gets there and discovers that temple of love is, of course, not to give the whole book away, but of course, it's almost obvious that
Yeah, it's within.
it's a parable. It's revealed that it is the temple of love that one needs to build within herself. And so if the readers are interested, of course, they will find all of those beautiful methods. And there's also elements of personal alchemy as a symbol to personal transformation. There's a spirit animal guide who guides the protagonist on the journey, revealing to her sacred jewels as she unlocks each one of the chakras. So it is
Beautiful.
an interesting kind of mix of self-help, but also almost like mystical story, right? And so it was really fun to write.
That's it. Just sounds really beautiful, you know. And I
Thank
something
you.
that women would really, a pilgrimage for the woman, because a
It
lot
is.
and other books, they were written by men,
Yes.
and I think
Like
that's
a lot of
the
the
reason
ones I
I
mentioned, The
know them.
Alchemist,
Yeah,
right? The Monk Who Sold
yeah,
His Ferrari, The Magician's Way, it's all very
yeah,
masculine. And I love all of those books, but I really wanted something from a
yeah.
female
That's
perspective.
right. Because one of the first books I've read was by Lynn Andrews, The Medicine Woman. It's one of the best books that was ever written about a spiritual medicine woman. And it says in the front part, before there is a medicine man, there's always the medicine woman that he learns from. The man always learns from the medicine woman. And you have to read that book. It's just incredible, written many years ago. But yeah, it's time for the women to come back, and bring these beautiful books into this beautiful realm.
Well, you've said quite something very profound because I think we are living in that time period where there is a shift towards the feminine, the
Definitely.
return of the divine feminine. I'm reading a book right now about the return of the divine feminine Christ consciousness as well.
Exactly.
And
Lord and
and
Lady Christ. It's Lord and Lady Christ consciousness.
yes, that's right.
Because
And so,
Elohim is, it says in Genesis, Elohim, God, is
oh, okay.
masculine and feminine. Both
Yes,
created this world. Not just
absolutely.
not just the masculine face of God. We're bringing the feminine mother face of God to bring, in unity at this time.
Correct. Where it always was, and it's just been so skewed in the other direction for so many centuries and millenniums that it's starting to obviously we can see that where women are getting well, now women are starting to regain their power, and we can already see the return of that feminine power. But we cannot stop right now. We need to
Oh,
push female authors, female doctors, female poets and artists and chefs and everybody
yes.
because
Yes. And I think
yeah.
I think that it's not being above men. This is where feminists they want to they want to either become like men, which is the the wounded side of the masculine, not the divine. So they're battling and they're fighting, they're becoming aggressive, that they want, or they want to be above men and treat men like the lower. No, we have to always come from the divine, always come from love, from the open-hearted
Mm-hmm.
love of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, but be in unity. Just bring the
Mm-hmm.
women back to her rightful position, which is in unity,
Mm-hmm.
together, because that's balance within our world then, isn't it?
That's it. The yin and yang.
Yes,
One cannot exist without the other. They're counterparts of one system.
yes, so true. You can't, Shiva cannot live without Shakti.
Yes. The dance of Shiva and Shakti. It's sacred, and that's what makes the universe, holds the universe together, basically.
Yeah, that's what made us. Shiva and Shakti, the god and the goddess, Elohim. It says it in Genesis, you know. But it's a real time of the divine feminine. It really is. The and the essence. Your book says it. How can we use our divine feminine essence and reclaim the inner goddess through sacred sexuality and
Hmm.
tantric energy in a healing? Because I know that
Mm.
I believe that you can have enlightenment two ways. You can do it by yourself, yeah, you know, through that way, raising the energy, but you can also do it through sacred sexuality and sacred
Yes.
sexuality.
Well, sacred union, right?
Yeah,
It can be a solo experience.
yeah,
Sacred sexuality does not mean you have to have a partner.
no,
Sacred sexuality means that you can embody your own inner goddess and use the gift of sexuality that actually I believe that God gave us this gift.
so do I.
And if we deny that part of ourselves, again, just like denying the ego, just like denying other aspects of ourselves, it's
Yeah,
not bringing us into wholeness. It's not bringing us into completeness. And so, used in a very precise way, where you connect to your body, and through that you connect to your spirit and to the divine, sexuality can be a beautiful pathway towards that one truth that we were speaking about at the beginning,
exactly.
which is all is love.
That's right. And Natalie, you're so true because, I've done a lot of interviews, and as a yogini, I always had a problem with, oh, have you got, I mean, I've been celibate for many years, but you know, I believe I'll meet a man and I will have that sacred sexuality again. But so many, yogis, they say, oh no, you've got to be celibate to reach enlightenment. But I don't believe that. I believe you can do it on your own to reach enlightenment. Yes. But I believe the sacred union, it's Joseph and Mary, it's Mary Magdalene and Jesus Christ, it's Shakti and Shiva, it's the feminine and masculine force that created this world. You can't deny that. The both of them coming into sacred union, you can have the amazing orgasm of Tantra, which is all the
Mm,
chakras connecting, and then boom, having that absolute incredible orgasm, oneness with the cosmic, consciousness. That's what it
mhm,
is. We
mm,
can't deny so many, especially in religion. Oh, you got to deny this part of yourself. I believe that
mm,
if it's done in sacredness, because sex has been so, it's been made so degenerate. It's not sacred anymore. I believe that
right.
sacred sexuality is a sacred prayer between two people.
Yes, and a prayer between yourself and the experience of the body, the pleasure of the body, as a doorway towards that divine presence. And I think you're right. Sex has also been very demonized and shameful. There's a lot of stigma that has been associated to it and really implanted into our brains from a very young age to say sex is dirty, it's shameful, it's not something that, you do. Even self-pleasure is
Yeah,
frowned upon and taught not to explore. And yeah, I think there's many different ways that we can go here. And as I said, living in Thailand, I have seen monks who are celibate or at least meant to be celibate for as long as they're living in the temple and are giving themselves over to their practice and to this religion.
Of course.
And I think it's a wonderful way, but it's not for everybody.
No,
That's the beauty of it. It's not, there's no one way for everybody. And this is
that's right.
actually what I talk about in Temple of Love, is that choose your path. There's so many different paths, right? There is that plant medicine route,
Yes.
which works for some and doesn't work for others. There is obviously, yoga, which
Mhm.
can be including breath work and all the 8 limbs of yoga, right? Including all of the yamas and niyamas and
And
pranayamas.
the Kundalini, raising the Kundalini, that's
Exactly.
Kundalini yoga.
There's that. Some people go through the cold and the ice by taking daily ice plunges, which I think is quite masculine way personally.
Yeah.
I've read some research that it's actually not that good for women to experience prolonged exposure to ice. So we should kind of
Yeah.
limit it to about 10 degrees minimum, which is just as works as effectively. There's no need for us to, be so strong, like and try to overcome this bone crushing pain that ice can bring us. But there's so many other ways, right? There's Tantra, which again is very misinterpreted by
Yes.
the Western media. There is, gosh, what any
I
kinds
mean,
of religion, if it's done not in a dogmatic way, but if it's done in a way that connects you to your true divinity, which is inside of you, not as something outside of you.
yeah.
So I truly believe that there is so many pathways and they're
There
all
is.
leading to the same.
And yes, every way is sacred as long as they lead you to the one. There's only one creator, one God, goddess. There's only one source. There's only one story, one one verse, one universe, one story that we're all interpreting in different ways. And there's many
Hmm.
paths to get there. It's that's the beauty of it, isn't it? And
Hmm.
you just have to. But I think that no one should say, "Oh, you have to be celibate." I think that we have
Exactly.
to. I think because then that demonizes that makes sex lower than it is, because really I
Right.
believe that a lot of problems, people have so many problems sexually because, as you said, it's been demonized, and women have been demonized in religion, and said that our bodies are dirty, and we can't express our pleasure,
Mhm.
we cannot voice our sexuality,
Mm.
which has caused, that's caused us to not love the darkness, our dark goddess, as well as our white goddess. It's only been, you've got to be virginal, you've got to be
Mm.
quiet, you've got to be passive. That's the perfect woman, who looks after everyone. No, we
Mhm.
need the dark goddess to come in, because she says no to situations which are
That's
harmful.
right.
She allows us to speak our truth and to voice our pleasures, like Kali coming in and cutting away all of
I
the
was just thinking of Kali.
corruption. There's so much corruption and
Mm.
evil in this world. The women have to come in with the dark goddess and the white goddess, both the light and the dark, together in wholeness, to bring and say no, but with love.
Exactly. With pure power. That's what it's about. It's not about trying to fight the ego or the darkness or the wounded masculine with other power and more darkness. It will never work. It has to come from that pure power, pure, authentic, strong power that is hidden within all of us. And when you integrate all of these archetypes in yourself and you bring those inner goddesses out through different practices, whether, again, like I said, yoga or um, plant medicines. And in my book, I talk about visualizing your inner goddess and connecting to your inner goddess as well. And it's absolutely possible to have that rise of the beautiful divine feminine that is going to stand up to all injustices and create a beautiful, harmonious world.
That's it. Because love isn't all butterflies and unicorns. Yeah. Love can be strong, because love has to say, no, this is not right, what's happening to these children in the world. No, this is not correct for these women to be in these situations of domestic abuse and human trafficking and all that's happening in the world. We have to rise up, but always come from that place of the heart.
Right. And I think we have to start with
Yeah,
ourselves,
yeah,
standing up for yourself. I'm going through
yeah.
something similar where I'm actually called to stand up against the wounded toxic masculine. And it's really liberating and freeing and so empowering when you realize that you don't you don't have to give away your power anymore. And if you give away your own power, how can you possibly help anybody else? You need to stand up for yourself. And sometimes that might look almost like, oh, what's wrong with her? Why is she being like this? It must be her ego. And actually, sometimes I say, you know what? You're right. It is the ego. But ego in this sense is self-preservation, and
Yes,
it's actually
that's
used for the right in the right way.
so true. Self-preservation and standing up for ourselves and standing up for the vulnerable who don't have a voice is so important. Being of service is helping others, and that's why it's so important for us to do the inner work so that we can then be of service to others.
That's right. And be great role models for the next generation, for our children.
The girls
That's
and the boys,
yeah,
yeah, it's so important.
yes.
And
For the girls, be a role model that you would want the young women to grow into, and for the boys, teach them how to treat women, how to respect women,
yeah,
right? And I think there's such a great movement coming out of this conscious parenting right now, which is
mm,
beautiful to see. Lots of parents are now stepping up to teach their young boys and girls, of course, about the equality
it's
and
so
how to
important.
stand up and protect the feminine as well
Yes, that is so
and
important.
elevate.
Yes.
Protect and elevate. It's
Mm,
not just about protecting in a sense that the feminine is weaker. It's protecting the feminine by elevating and empowering her. But obviously, the feminine, especially now, it's in a very vulnerable situation, very vulnerable position. So there could be a little bit of protection and extra elevation that needs to happen right now.
and allowing the woman to rise. Men
Hmm.
have to step back. Women are birthing the new earth. Men are protecting the woman as she births this new earth. So you have to allow the women to rise. Allow us to be in our position of balance with the masculine.
That's
It's
right. It's almost like giving the woman that safe space to operate in.
that's
Create that nurturing space where women can birth and create magic into the world.
so true. And I just wanted to go in a little bit about, how what you describe in Temple of Love. Please tell us how, this is all ancient wisdom, because all wisdom comes from ancient wisdom anyway, and we're really going back to our ancestors. And the plant medicines, along with contemporary psychology, how can they help us? I mean, I've taken magic mushrooms and ayahuasca, and it was just incredible. And I know that the priestesses used to take the mushrooms in the temples, and use sacred sexuality in that way to teach
Mhm.
men to come closer to the divine, So,
Mhm.
yeah, what about that with the plant medicines? Because I know that it's very controversial.
Mm. It is controversial, but I think it's becoming more and more acceptable and almost mainstream. We even have shows on Netflix and other popular streaming services that discuss the benefits of psychedelics for therapeutical purposes.
Yeah.
And obviously, even certain government agencies are starting to open up research facilities where they test certain substances for PTSD, for depression, anxiety, and so forth. So there's definitely a growing interest and a space that's being created for exploring the benefits of it. But it's just interesting. I always found it fascinating. First of all, altered states of consciousness. I always found them to be fascinating. Even as a kid, I remember somebody must have heard it from some or read it in a yoga book or something like that. I think it's called Agni. Um, something. I forget the name of this yoga pose, but essentially you squat down and you dig your fingers into your abdomen and you start to breathe really deeply and then kind of roll your eyes up, and essentially you stand up and we would fall back down, experiencing an altered state of consciousness, or almost like passing out, but seeing some beautiful patterns, but also going into that void. And it's funny because after I started practicing yoga, I realized that there is a practice like that to raise the kundalini energy up, right? And so when I read about ayahuasca and other plant medicines, I got so fascinated by this because I thought, well, I've always been interested in this stuff, and here's a chance to explore it a little bit further. And so I read all the books that I could find and watched all the YouTube videos, which probably was a bit of an overkill because I think you should go in with no expectations. I went in with all the expectations. And so it was an interesting experience, which I describe in the book in Temple of Love. But the wisdom and the knowledge that has been held by these indigenous tribesmen and women who have actually somehow found a way to combine two plants out of hundred thousands of different species of plants in the Amazon forest. And somehow these two plants, they knew exactly which ones to combine to create the intended effect of ayahuasca, which
Yeah.
is, of course, the release of the DMT. And, they have been using it for healing, for getting answers and insights, and connecting to the spirit world. And it's really something that if you've never tried it, it's impossible to even explain
Yeah. Yeah.
because, and I always say, if it calls to you, you can go ahead and do it and experience it for yourself, not because somebody has told you or you feel the peer pressure of people telling you to do it, but because you get that calling. And
Yeah.
this is exactly what I had when
Yeah.
I first heard about it. It resonated with me. It felt like I needed to be there. I needed to sit down with that cup of the brew, the
The
potent
taste
brew.
vile.
Yes, it is. It is. But it's just one of I asked for confirmation
Mm.
that something beyond this material world exists because I was very pragmatic, very logical, very kind of like science-based person before. And so when I started my spiritual journey, I thought, well, I get it, but I don't really understand it. I couldn't conceptualize all of these ideas that even Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now was writing about, and all of these religious scripts. And then I said, I need confirmation. And the plant medicines gave me that confirmation that there is indeed something beyond the physical world, beyond our senses, that exists. And it's so beautiful. And we are part of it all. And nature is basically the totality of nature, and everything in existence is God, goddess, as you say. And connecting to that is actually just right there. But the veil of the ego, sometimes it's a little too thick. And I think that you don't need plant medicines to lift that veil. But what it does is that it gives you a benchmark for what to shoot for. It
Yeah.
gives you an idea of what is
Yeah.
possible, what is available, so that you can now take that newfound insights and that firsthand lived experience and try to get there on your own. And
Yeah.
you can do that anytime,
You can.
anywhere.
You can. And that is exactly what they're here for. They're here on this earth. God has put them here for us to experience, to heighten our consciousness. And then once we have that, this is what Kundalini rising. This is I'm a Kundalini Kriya Yoga teacher. And we make our own DMT in here.
Mhm,
Right?
mhm,
So it's
mhm.
like you have it out there first of all to ignite it, the passion of that feeling of that otherworldly. You've been to the heavenly realm, you touch that otherworldly realm, and then you can start to make the temple of light your own temple of love within here. This is why it's called
Yes,
the temple, because this is
that's
what
right.
it is. This is the God particle. Yes, exactly. DMT, is created in here. So,
Mm,
I mean, when I did my ayahuasca, I remember she told me, because it's feminine, ayahuasca, the mother, and she just told me to love myself and to love everyone. It was absolutely amazing.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And sometimes that's all we need, that catalyst for change.
Mm.
right? And that's why I believe that plant medicines have their place and the reason for being there in nature. Why would they
Yeah,
be there? There's
exactly.
no other reason for them to be there than for the consciousness to experience it, right?
That's
For us
right.
humans. Hmm.
And people have been taking them thousands of years. It's helped the evolution of humanity. But it's just an amazing,
Some of
beautiful.
the greatest art and the greatest
Yeah,
insights and thoughts and poems have come from people using plant medicines and psychedelics.
of
So I
course.
definitely think that they have a huge part to play, as you say, in the evolution of consciousness.
Mm, mm, definitely. And um, yes. So tell us about the ancient well, we tapped on that a little bit, but I just did a whole another interview on what is alchemy, but
Hmm.
ancient philosophy of alchemy prevailing through your book. You say it's a metaphor for transformation, and alchemy is magic, is it not?
It is magic, and it's it's such a beautiful symbol to embody in your own personal transformation. Because if we think of alchemy as an ancient philosophical concept of transmuting base metal into gold,
God,
then we can definitely say that for ourselves, that we can transmute any darkness into light.
yes,
And
yes.
and it has alchemy has a very specific process. There's actually 7 stages in alchemy. I don't know if you have covered all of that in your previous
And you went into
episodes.
it, and it was like, whoa.
Okay, good. It's
Yeah.
really, really amazing. And when I saw that these 7 stages, it became so clear to me that it can be transferred directly to the dissolution of the ego.
Yes, and the seven
And
chakras.
again, yeah, and the 7 chakras, exactly.
Yeah.
So it all aligns so perfectly as the protagonist travels towards that temple of love, right?
Yeah.
She
Here.
heals her chakras, the 6 chakras leading up to the seventh one. And each stage, she alchemizes that part of her essence to transmute it into pure light of divinity, which is outside of us, but also inside of us.
So true.
And understanding that God, goddess, divine, universe, whatever you want to call it, it's not something that we are separate from.
Mm.
It's something that we are an intricate part of. And so all the qualities that you can equate with God and the divine, it's also all the qualities that we have inside of us.
Yes.
And in this process, it's such a beautiful process of alchemy where I think I can't remember exactly all the specific stages, but there's separation, fermentation, right? Coagulation, and then ultimately, again, bringing it all back together, which
Vibration.
is the integration. Yeah.
Wow. That's just it's just so beautiful because you're alchemizing fear into love. You're alchemizing matter into spirit. Yeah. Which is what we're all doing, aren't we? We
That's
come
right.
here. It's just that's just
And I
beautiful.
think we're all doing that anyway in our journey through life.
Yeah.
So probably as we get towards the old age, we're already passing all of those. And hopefully, when we're on the threshold and we're about to cross over into the other realm, to the other side, we would have accepted it and we would have alchemized ourselves in that way to move over in with peace and with love and with acceptance without resisting and without fighting it and clinging to life, and clinging to past regrets and holding grudges and crossing over in that state, right? So
No.
hopefully we will have all passed through all of those stages, but we can also pass through those stages in some aspects of our life many times over and
Yeah.
over again. And specifically when we're faced with a life-changing transition, such as divorce or career change or huge loss, where you're faced with kind of not knowing what to expect in the future, and you're standing in this kind of edge of the great abyss of the unknown. And that's your invitation to travel back to find yourself and to travel again from the bottom layer all the way up through the chakras and all the way to the top to basically learn how to discover yourself and learn how to love yourself again and understand who you are
Yeah.
on the core essence.
And recreate yourself anew.
Mhm, mhm.
Recreate your life anew, you know? Yeah.
That's the process of evolution and evolving and the metamorphosis. We can pass through that storm only to realize that the storm actually made us stronger, made us wiser, made us who we are meant to be.
Yes.
And I give a beautiful
Oh, yes. Show us your
quote at the beginning.
oh,
I give a beautiful quote at the beginning of the book by Haruki Murakami. When you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person that walked in. That's what the storm is all about. And I love that quote. That's exactly, it just brings this whole entire story together.
beautiful. That book. And where can we read your book? Please tell us where we can find it.
Well, it is available on all online retailers such as Barnes& and Noble, Amazon. I'm pretty sure all the other ones. I can't think of all of them right now, but you can search it and you can get it in the UK, in the US. It's delivered everywhere worldwide. And it's releasing on April 27th, which is just about a week
Oh,
away
so
from now.
exciting. Yeah, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And where can we go on to find your beautiful workshops and, your courses?
Mhm. I am currently developing some courses which will reflect this journey, the pilgrimage to the heart, which I call it the journey to self. And I have already integrated a lot of my courses into my work with pageant contestants, which of course, who come to me because I'm a former Miss Universe
No, that's
and
amazing.
I teach them, yeah, I teach them how to find that center of who they are and how to compete and come from the authentic place inside of themselves so that everyone can see their beautiful hearts. And
Oh,
so you can definitely find my books and some meditations. I have a few free workbooks online on natalieglebova.com. And I do weekly channeled guided meditations on my Instagram account, Natalie Glebova, as well. I'm thinking of moving it over to YouTube though, but you can find me on YouTube as well under my name.
wonderful, wonderful. Well, Natalie, I just want to say thank you so much for writing this really important book it's really important for women at this time, as we've been discussing throughout this beautiful interview, that women really need to trust that love light energy within. And we've got to heal the women, because then I believe we can heal the world.
That's it. That's all we have to do. And we can all start with ourselves.
Definitely. And thank you. Thank you so much for being on the Great Awakening Show.
And thanks you, Yogini Joanne. I really appreciate the work that you do. Thank you for spreading the beautiful light and leading the charge in this beautiful evolution of our consciousness and the return of the divine feminine.
The return of the divine feminine is all beautiful. It's going to be here. Yeah. It's already happening. So, yeah. Oh, thank you.